With all of these rotating school strikes, many parents are concerned how this job action will impact their kids' learning.
Education expert Sunny Verma joins us this morning with some helpful tips for all of you parents out there to keep your kids engaged and on track. First of all, let's start with that. Are kids falling behind at this point in the curriculum, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I think the more time you take off, the worse it's going to get. And one of the major concerns is that the information that a child is required to know this year, of course, is going to be required for them to know next year. So all the learning outcomes still need to be met.
What do you look for? Because they're also not doing after school or at lunchtime any kind of extra help. What do you look for with your kid that may show signs that they're falling behind because of this?
One, they aren't bringing home their homework, and they're telling you that there is nothing to actually do at school because of the strike. But I think the big thing is this is why parents need to take ownership over the learning outcomes. So maybe what we can do is spend a couple moments going through actually what parents should do by a grade category level.
Okay. Yep.
So if you look at grade 1 to 3, this is where it's really simple. All you're doing is basic literacy and basic numerations, right? So that's phonics, basic reading. Now, when you get to grade 4 to 6, this is where you look at multiplication, division, decimals, fractions, right? And this is where you also get into some pretty strict reading comprehension. Now, grade 7 and 8, this is when you start to hear these really, really scary words like algebra and integers and essays, right? And the truth is that by the end of grade 8, your child will need to know how to do these things. So what do? You have to be well prepared in understanding this because this is going to help guide and prepare your child for future academic success.
Okay.
So what do you do?
So
what are some options? How can we
the resources?
The resources, right? So YouTube. YouTube is...
Which I love. I can't believe this.
So YouTube is not just about silly cat videos. It actually has some of the best, greatest educators that have ever existed that have created and curated amazing content that cover everything, from everything that you're going to do from JK all the way up to grade 12. And the best part of it is free, and it's really easily searchable.
So, for example, you just mentioned grade 6 to 8. If you typed in algebra for grade 6 or whatever the age group is, like, what is that, 10 to 12-year-olds?
You could just
grade 6, 12-year-olds.
You can put grade 6 math and see entire units and courses about it.
Okay.
Yeah. And
what else can we do? You said make sure kids, this is a tough one, stick to the schedule. They shouldn't be sleeping in on those days off.
No.
How come?
Well, because when they get back to school, it's going to be really hard to set that alarm and wake them up. That's going to be a big challenge. And you're going to want to spend a couple hours each day rigorously in the academics. Now, I'm really biased, but this is probably one of the best times to also get a tutor, right? Because the tutor is going to know the curriculum like the back of their hand. They're going to coordinate the learning outcomes and lesson plans, and they're not just going to hold your child par for the course. I think more importantly, they're going to actually get your child ahead during this time.
With what we're seeing right now, a day here, 2 days there, is that worse than, say, a strike that goes a week and then is over and done? Or is it better for the kids? It gives more flexibility.
This is better because nobody's getting too excited, right? Because the frustration that the parents have is equally met by the excitement that a child's going to have, right? So if they're going to want a significant period off because it's going to feel like they got a holiday. This is probably better right now because there's also uncertainty. It's not giving any child hope, like, hey, I'm going to have a couple weeks off, but it's also giving parents the wherewithal that they don't have to hire a babysitter for the entire week.
Okay, so you talk about at least 2 to 4 hours dedicated towards having some study time, keeping their regular school hours so that they don't get off the clock. You also mentioned something about a family book club.
Yeah, okay, so you want to inspire learning if a larger strike does happen, and I think Family Book Club is one of the best ways of doing this. So this is where you let your child choose a topic or a book that they're interested in, and because of that, you could probably get them to commit to probably reading about 30 minutes a day. And as parents, I always recommend that you follow along as well, because this way you can ask them questions about the characters, the plot, the themes. These are what we call literary devices, which are going to improve your child's reading comprehension, which is absolutely critical. I also suggest puzzles during this time. Now, puzzles are going to seem a lot more like fun and play, right? They're going to seem a lot more like that.
But they're great for your mind, though, right?
So geometry, spatial sense, and visual reasoning are absolutely critical. So are they going to get your grades up? No. But what they can do is definitely sharpen the brain, especially if there's a strike.
And it helps if you're doing it together, because I despise puzzles. My younger sister and older sister could do them all day long. So find something that works maybe with that particular child if they're not down with the puzzle.
Yeah, you want to make sure it's age appropriate as well.
I love this idea, daily documentaries.
Yeah.
Which is great, because, the kids want to watch TV, but you hook them up with these.
I'm so with you on this, because daily documentaries are amazing. They're one of the best educational tools and resources that we have. If you have your child watch a daily documentary and you ask them leading questions or ask them to write about it afterwards, this is going to spark their curiosity and give them a wealth of knowledge.
Okay, so what you're saying is they can actually participate in what they're watching rather than just like sitting there all day long with all the screen. How do you feel about screen time, video video games, all that. Should that be limited as well?
I think you want to have a fine balance. I think the screen time can be really, really well utilized if it is for academic purposes. For documentaries, you can find amazing ones on Netflix. To YouTube and finding great educators on there is going to be amazing for screen time. Now, if you're just playing video games and you're on all your social medias, no, that could be extreme challenging because addiction can actually rise during this time frame because you have nothing else to keep you occupied.
But can you give them a little go, you know what, take a couple hours, go. Like, and acknowledge that it's abnormal what's happening right now. And
I think that's very, very fair, right? Because you do want to give your child a little bit of a break as well, right? To them, this is an exciting moment. Like, hey, I don't have to wake up and go to school. Like, I remember being a child going through the strike, and this was like, oh, like I just won the lottery, right? So you want to acknowledge that to give them a little bit of leniency and leeway here. But I would still make it a little bit of rigorous in the academics because you genuinely don't want them to fall behind. Because in the following school year, the next teacher is not going to say, well, you had a strike, so I don't expect you to know the information.
I remember in grade 8, I missed a lot of it for other reasons because I was being bullied, believe it or not. And in grade 9, I remember the first time the teacher talked about negative numbers. I didn't even know what that meant. I was like, what's a negative number?
because you missed it.
I had missed the whole thing. So it really, and it was a couple of days, you know, every month. And you can miss out on stuff.
And when you do, that's just going to compound and create a lot more problems for you in your future.
That's it, and then it's hard to get back on track. So for more information, where do we get a great tutor?
Tutorbright.com.
There it is. Thank you so much, Sonny.
Sonny, thanks very much.
That was great. Thank you.